Hi, Ohms here and welcome to OmzLaw. And today we're going to learn how to create parallax inside of Adobe Photoshop and then move it into Adobe After Effects for animation in our next video. If you're new to this channel, subscribing to it will really help me make more content like this. And if you'd like other tutorials that cover the Adobe software, please let me know and I'll see if I could help out with that. For those who do not have at least a basic understanding of the programs, I suggest you check out my courses on Udemy concerning Photoshop and After Effects. The first 10 people to click on the link below will receive free coupons for those courses. And now, without wasting any time, let us get right to it. So as you open up Adobe Photoshop, I would like you guys to download a couple of images that we might need in order for us to get this done. I have left the links inside of the description, so go ahead to those pages and download those images. So when you first open up Photoshop, you are going to be asked to create a new document. So we're going to press on New right here, and we are going to be presented with all of these options. Now, since we are going to move this into After Effects and create an animation there, and most likely that animation is going to go on YouTube or some other platform, we are going to choose the film and video option right here. You can also choose the web, but in the film and video option, we'll be able to get the appropriate dimensions that we need. So we do need it to be HD or high definition. So we need it to be 1920 by 1080. You can find this amongst the list right here. So I'm going to click on it right here. You can change the resolution if you want the resolution to be higher. For now, I'm going to keep the resolution at 100 and I'm going to press create. You don't need to worry about any of these other options at this moment. The standard options inside of Adobe will be fine. So now that we are inside of Photoshop, I am going to rearrange my workspace so that it probably matches what you're seeing. So we can start off by importing our images, and the easiest way to do this is to go into the folder where you've downloaded the images, grab them, and drag them into Photoshop. For the time being, you can just click on the Commit Transform button right here. It's basically this tick mark so that we have all the images imported here the same size. If you look over here in our Layers tab, if you can't find this, you can press on Window, Layers, and it'll be right here. Or you can press on F7. Alright, so I'm just going to turn off some of these and talk about what I want to do. So the most important aspect about Parallax and, selling off these locations together is to really conceptualize and pick the right images that are going to possibly work together. Now we can see that these two images contrast heavily to the rest of the images below. So the rest of the images have this nature aspect to them. They have probably similar lighting. So you want to choose images that have similar lighting. You want to choose images that might work together. But I want to also make these work with that environment. So I do want to end up shifting these colors inside of After Effects. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to use our foreground element, which is this one, overlay it with the mountain, take out the sky from the mountain image, replace it with this sky, and also have basically this image of the sun amongst those in the background. So a lot of work to do, but we can start off by cutting up these images. So I'm going to go to this image. The easiest way to do this is to press on the quick selection tool. You can also erase using the eraser manually, but the quick selection tool right here will allow us to select all of the colors that are similar. So you can click and drag. You can also click on certain areas so that it calculates it by itself. And you can also zoom in to the tree here by pressing Z on your keyboard or by holding Alt and scrolling with your mouse. So we can see that it is cutting up some of these aspects right here. So we want to clean this up. What you can do is press on this brush right here. So we want to subtract from the selection, or you can hold Alt as you do this. And you can change the brush size. So if you go up here and you press on this button right here, you'll be able to increase the size. You can change with the hardness as well, but we're not going to do that. So we're going to keep the size just a bit small so we can clean up some of the stuff right here. So we're going to hold Alt and we're going to clean up this bit by just clicking on the pixels. We can zoom in by holding Alt and scrolling in. And we can also add in this area, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep it rough for now. Again, you don't need to perfect this at this moment. However, if you're like me and you want to spend some time on this, pause this video and really spend some time selecting the pixels. The more accurate you are at this moment, the easier it is to clean up later on. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the rasterization of this image. So we're going to click on the eraser and then click on this area. And so Photoshop is going to ask us that you need to rasterize the object. So we're going to press OK. And now we can just hit delete. And you can see that the background has been completely deleted. So we want to put up this image. So I want this mountain to be in that image. I'm going to be more basic here. So I'm going to grab this section. Just almost like that. I don't need this person. If you want to clean up any of these things, you can use the clone stamp tool, and we can get into that later. So I wanted to select the opposite. I want to delete, the stuff on the bottom. So I'm going to right click, press on select inverse, and then I'm going to press delete. So this is pretty good. So I want to grab this and put it underneath the hill and drag this by clicking and dragging. Just almost like that. Right, so now we have these two layers. Obviously, you can go into this layer, press on your rectangular marquee tool or any other tool that has the quick selection option, and you can press deselect. You can go into this layer and end up cleaning up all of these. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to zoom in by clicking and holding or pressing on the zoom tool. And I'm going to press on the eraser or press E. I'm going to shrink the eraser down. So I'm going to right click on the screen, bring the eraser size down. I also don't want it to be too harsh. So I'm going to put it at 7. And I don't want it to, have a full opacity while it's erasing. So I'm going to bring down the opacity right here. And I'm going to clean this up. So obviously this is going to take some time, and it will require you to check your work every now and then. So stepping back and checking if, you got it right. If you did end up erasing any of the, tree elements or the leaves, you can go into your clone stamp tool right here, right click, shrink down the brush size to the length that you want. And so cloning, you want to clone an area to an area that's been erased. So imagine we erased this. So we are going to hold Alt so that we copy this area. So we want to copy this information onto this information. So we're holding Alt, we press on the area that we want to copy, and you can see now we have the brush that is copying this area that we just selected. And you can go up here to the opacity and change the opacity of this brush. I would keep it low. I would keep it at around 35 or 40, just so that I could slowly, paint this area in by maybe, inspiring from other areas and working on this while checking my work as well. So we're going to stop here with the cleaning. We're not going to spend too much time cleaning this up. I think you guys will spend that on your own. All right, so we are going to cut up our other elements. We are going to go into the mountain, and we want to cut up the sky. So the sky is going to be a bit difficult because the quick selection tool isn't going to be able to probably do this, but let's try. So we're going to click on the quick selection tool. We're going to, try to grab the entire sky. All right, seems like it did a good job. I think it included some of the hills here. So we're going to zoom in here and press on our quick selection tool and hold Alt and kind of tell it not to have these included. So I'm holding Control, moving around, and slowly doing this. So you guys can be more meticulous with this, but what I'm going to do is just press on my eraser, press on the layer that I want to rasterize in case it hasn't been rasterized yet. But in this case, it already is. So I could just press delete. And I'm going to deselect. You can see we had some leftovers from the selection process. And again, you can go into your eraser tool by pressing on E. You can change around the opacity, right click, change the size. And now you can, clean this up. You could also do this using your rectangular marquee. So grabbing this area and then pressing delete. So now that we have the sky cut up for the mountain, we can also change around with how this is represented. So in case you cut up the stuff, you know, on this side before, you can come back in and replace it with another image. For now, I'm just going to keep the mountain a bit lower, but what I advise you guys to do is to cut this up using the polygon tool like that. So to have an extension of this image right here. Alright, so now that we have the mountain in the back, I want the sky to be behind the mountain. So I'm going to drag this layer all the way beneath the mountain, and this should work out without us intervening much. So we are doing a very rough estimate, even though that these images contrast in lighting and all of that, we will be able to fix the lighting inside of After Effects. You can fix the lighting here, but I would prefer to use the tools inside of After Effects. So our last image is the sun, and the sun is pretty tricky here because we can't really cut up all these clouds the same way we were doing before. So we're going to put the sun behind the clouds, and first we're going to test out with our layers here how this layer could interact with this layer that's underneath it. So over here you have your blending options, and your blending options treats the sky in a certain way. So it will play around with the light of the image in order to blend them together in a certain way. So again, I am pressing on the sky and the sun is underneath it. So I do like the lighten aspect as it is giving the sun this kind of atmospheric look. And what we can do is come in here and erase some of the things that are bothering us. So the lighten option might work. I would just try out all of these and decide on the one that probably works best for your composition. For now, I'm going to keep it simple and I'm going to select the lighten option. So now I'm going to go into the sun and start erasing all of these details that I don't need. So I'm going to click on the sun. So I don't want these to appear. I'm going to press on my eraser tool, and obviously we're going to have to rasterize the image. So we're going to press on OK. So we're going to have to paint using our brush. So we're going to press on B for brush, and we are going to right click to shrink our brush down. So basically to this size, and we are going to press on the fill option here so that we could pick the color black. So let's try this. We're going to turn on the layer above it, and we're going to paint black. Again, make sure your opacity here is in the range that you want it to be. If it gets too dark, it'll change the color of the image as well. So you can use this brush option, or you can use the clone stamp and copy certain things to cover these up. Alright, so this is looking pretty good right now. I think by this point we don't need to do anything in terms of matte painting. You can if you want to make this more dynamic, but for today I'm just keeping it simple so that I can explain the concepts, and perhaps in a later video I could make them more advanced. So what really worries me here is that the sky is not even in the same width as the composition, and this is going to be a problem later. So we're going to have to deal with this now. We're going to click on the sky, hold shift, and click on the next layer, and we are going to select these objects. So make sure you have your move tool right here, and you want to click on the transform option. You're going to hold shift, hold alt, and we're going to enlarge in the sky so that it fits at least until this side. I'm holding shift so that I don't change the dimension of the sky, so I don't accidentally change the transform option in a way that I don't want. And I'm holding alt so that I keep the image in the center as I expand it. So I'm going to release. So release your mouse first, and we're going to hold control and move about. Now I'm going to grab these elements and bring them down. So I'm going to grab these two and lower them into the image. You can hold shift so that none of the elements move. So now we have another problem. We have to deal with this extra space that's happening here. So we do have to expand the elements. So let's click on all of our layers. Let us hold onto this transform option, hold shift, hold alt, and we're going to expand it until it covers the entire composition. And then you guys can go about applying the transformation, changing around with how this looks. So bringing some elements down, and I think that looks good enough for now. You can also bring down the sky and the sun so that it fits nicely. All right, so we are gonna stop right here and we are going to save our file. So you can press on Ctrl S or you can press on File, Save right here. And the idea here is to keep it as a Photoshop file. We want to import this into After Effects as a Photoshop file. So we're going to name this composition and we are going to press on Save. And that's it for today. For the next tutorial, we will be dragging these elements inside of Adobe After Effects and creating the parallax effect. If you guys enjoyed this type of content, please let me know, as that will help me decide on what type of videos I should make. And if you want more tutorials, also please let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. And as always, thank you for watching.